Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
It's time to get your hockey fix. This is Brave the Wild with your host, Paladino Joey, the leader of Minnesota Wild Hockey, here on thesportstuff.com. Hello again, hockey fans. Are you ready to brave the wild with me, your host, Paladino Joey? Well, the Minnesota Wild have been through a string of deja vu. In fact, 2 deja vus, 2 deja vus. I was almost going to say 3. We'll leave it at 2 for now. Yeah, I apologize that the show was not released immediately after the Minnesota Wild defeated the Colorado Avalanche in Game 7. But due to my schedule, I pretty much have to record around Saturday, Sunday. This week it ended up being Sunday. So just letting you guys know that I apologize that the show was not out immediately after Colorado. Now we're already 2 games into the Chicago Blackhawks series. But you can guess at why there's 2 deja vus going on here. And the show will be constructed as they have in the past for the postseason for the Minnesota Wild. Hopefully this postseason continues. And I'm feeling a lot similar to I was about 2 weeks ago. Very similar feeling when the Wild trailed the Colorado Avalanche 2-0. Not feeling so hot right now, but we'll see. We're undefeated at home so far this year, 3-0. So that's the good part. On to the actual reviews. We're gonna be reviewing games 6 and 7 against the Colorado Avalanche Monday, April 28th, Wednesday, April 30th. Oh my God, so much fun. Minnesota Wild down 3-2 after getting robbed, according to basically everybody, in Colorado on Saturday, April 26th. But here we go. Minnesota Wild come out firing big time. Wes Walz rallying the troops, so to speak, in the old let's play hockey deal, saying let's blow the lid off this place and I head on back to Denver. And it's like, yeah, as expected, the Minnesota Wild do win. They score a 5-2. Lots of energy. Showing a absolute home ice advantage, which was the title of the last show, and it looked like to me that home ice advantage was going to rule this series. All 7 games is going to belong to the home team. We'll get to Game 7 very shortly, but Game 6 very one-sided. Minnesota coming out very strong, very very strong. Zach Parise did his first round version of Kirby Puckett's Game 6 of both World Series that the Minnesota Twins won so long ago. And we're talking a long, long time ago, but luckily I myself was a witness to it via the television, not actually being there. I wish I was. But Parise did a little Kirby Puckett with 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists. Absolutely the man the whole way. An absolute Mike Madonna Award winner, at least in Game 6 we'll call him. Definitely the number 1 star of the game. Mikael Granlund playing awesome again. That line has been restored. The great line has been restored. Seems like Mike Yeo is constantly shifting the lines all over the place. And Mike Yeo, though, in Games 6 and 7, his approach after Game 5, absolutely, in a lot of ways, has solidified him as the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, at least for probably a good 3-year extension or whatever it's going to be. But the way he handled things after literally being robbed in Game 5, the way he simply said, we can't even look at it that way, we just need to basically not let that defeat us. We need to stay confident and know we can beat this team. That's basically what he said, paraphrasing. I don't have the direct quote here, and it doesn't truly matter what the direct quote is, but that's basically what he said, to not let getting screwed in Game 5 affect them. Not stand there screaming and bitching out about the refs, which did screw the Wild in this game, in that game, which I am not somebody that comes on the air talking about getting screwed by the refs all the time over many, many, many podcasts. This is actually the 87th episode of Brave the Wild, over a span of about 5 years now, over 5 years. You don't hear me bitch about the refs, but Game 5 was that way, and Mike Yeo, of course, saying basically blow that off, just come out with some fire and some passion, and the Wild did, and they took it to the Colorado Avalanche in many ways. Mikael Granlund getting his second goal of the postseason along the way. Jason Pominville with his first goal of the postseason, an empty netter late in the third period. Avalanche made it interesting when they tied it up. Had me a little bit worried, but then Zach Parise going Kirby Puckett on it with his second goal about midway through the third period. Gave the Wild a 3-2 lead. They pretty much dominated the game in terms of the energy and not really allowing Colorado to put many shots on net, which was, the story of this game in a lot of ways. Minnesota Wild, well, they faced 23 shots. That's not that many. And they executed nicely against Varlamov, who clearly was mentally fried after this game. And really you could say he was mentally fried during the course of Game 5, to be honest, because suddenly the Wild were scoring on him. And that's definitely a continuing factor in the final 3 games of this series. In a lot of ways, that's a lot of reason why the Wild won this series. Just absolutely took it to the Avalanche in a lot of ways. Lots of passion, lots of intensity. Patrick Waugh pulls the goalie, and the Wild had 2 goals in the empty net. Of course, Pominville, and Marco Scandella along the way to wrap things up in a very nice fashion. The Minnesota Wild off to Denver. I'm sure a lot of the Colorado Avalanche were thinking, well, hey, look how well we play in Denver. We're going to take care of things. Maybe it won't be easy, but we will take care of business. And as we do shift quickly, for the sake of time, into Game 7. Oh boy, that was Wednesday, April the 30th. An unbelievable game. One for the ages. And a lot of deja vu to this one. Lots of deja vu to this one. In fact, this will be kind of like our Minnesota Wild memory. Be like I said, if things were to happen similar to that legendary series against the Colorado Avalanche back in 2003, I would bring it up. I would bring up Game 7. And in a lot of ways, it was incredibly similar to that Game 7. In a lot of ways. Because there was never a moment in this game that you didn't think the Colorado Avalanche were going to win. I mean, except maybe the final minutes of regulation. The Colorado Avalanche, from the get-go, looked like the Stars were on their side, and the Stripes. That's right, the Stars and the Stripes, pun intended, were on the side of the Colorado Avalanche. Because Nick Holden's power play goal, real early, power play, obviously, for the Wild, really early on a lame penalty. Matt Duchene, obviously, back playing with the Avalanche, I might add. Game 6 and 7 did make a difference in a lot of ways. Without a doubt made a difference. You could tell the Avalanche had a lot more going on with him back in the lineup. He is the best player on that team, without a doubt. But Nick Holden, completely goalie. I mean, without a doubt, goalie interference. You don't have to come out and say we're getting screwed by the refs. You don't have to come out and be a rube about it. It's common sense. He was absolutely... There was no doubt about it that there was goalie interference going on. I mean, even the net was moving. So, but the goal was allowed by the refs, and it was unreviewed as well. An unreviewable goal, which to my knowledge, I have no idea why that is. Maybe somebody can fill me in as to why that's unreviewable. Maybe they could change that rule. That would be great. That really would be nice. But for the first of 4 times, the Minnesota Wild tie this up. Yeah, that's right. The first of 4 times. The Minnesota Wild trailed in this game, and they tie it up with Mikko Koivu netting his first goal of the postseason. He does have quite a few assists. Matt Moulson with his first assist, as now that's another new line. Obviously, he put the Wild super line back together, like I mentioned in the previous game, Game 6. The super line, of course, consisting of Mikael Granlund at center, Parise at left, and Mr. Pominville at right. The old super line. So now the second line, as he likes to continue to, Mr. Yeo likes to continue to shift players all over the place. Molson, Coyle, and Koivu putting together this one, tying it up 8 minutes into the game. And right away, it seemed like the Avalanche scoring again, one after another. Jamie McGinn easily beats Darcy Kemper, who clearly was nothing special in this game, and all the experts and novices and all that good stuff. Well, not novices, mostly experts and commentators all over town and even nationally were saying Darcy Kemper has to play a great game if the Minnesota Wild are going to win this one. Darcy Kemper did not play a great game, and most of Colorado's goals were, well, I mean, they weren't bad. They earned their goals and everything, but Darcy Kemper not exactly anything spectacular here, giving up goals left and right in this one. Jamie McGinn's goal, without a doubt, something that, I mean, it's like you just sit there scratching your head. Did he really? I mean, couldn't he stop that? I don't know. I guess not. Oh, but then the heroes of line three, the heroes start to come together in this one. But for some reason, Granlund was out there on the ice at the same time as Heatley, possibly during some type of shift change, or possibly just kind of like an in-game line shuffle, which does happen sometimes. But Danny Heatley, with burying it midway through the second period to tie the game up, and it was pretty much grinded out from there on. I mean, several minutes of a tie game between the Wild and the Avalanche. Danny Heatley showing why he's still a factor, at least with his hands, not with his skates. Obviously, he has no ability to beat anybody with his skates, no explosiveness anymore, but he does still have a little bit of skill with his hands, and he did make a nice finish off a Mikael Granlund pass. Gotta like that. But when Stastny gave the Avalanche a 3-2 lead early in the third period, and how easily he got it, and how Kemper just couldn't stop anything. I mean, you just put the puck in the air, you put the puck on net, Kemper will stop some and he'll give up some. That's basically what it's like. I don't really believe the Minnesota Wild have a starting goalie on the roster right now, and I'm not sure the Minnesota Wild have too many legit defensemen on the roster either. These are areas that the Minnesota Wild do need to improve in the offseason, and we're definitely noticing it in the Colorado or Chicago series, and we noticed it pretty much in every single game in Colorado as well, including this unbelievable Game 7. The Avalanche take the lead for the third time, the third bleeping time in this game, but then Nino Niederreiter, a name that has been very quiet. And the third line, which a lot of people have, it's been much maligned. You got Danny Heatley, Kyle Brodziak, and Nino Niederreiter. And for some strange reason, Mike Yeo has shuffled this line apart. I have no idea what he's thinking there. Leave these guys together with how well they played in Game 7. Are you kidding me? Because they score 3 goals from here on out. 3 goals, yeah. Nino Niederreiter getting his first goal ever in the postseason, in the history of his postseason. His first ever goal ever. Kyle Brodziak, a nice feed. Receiving the puck from Heatley as well. The Wild tie the game up for the third time. Unbelievable. And then Eric Johnson with the softie of softies after it looked like Darcy Kemper injured himself, bumping into Ryan Suter. I mean, talk about a softie. Eric Johnson merely putting the shot on net, and it went right past Darcy Kemper's glove. Like he couldn't even see it or something, couldn't focus on it. And an apparent concussion. Okay, not apparent, but a alleged concussion, since nobody likes to say anything about where injuries take place in the National Hockey League anymore. For obvious reasons, in terms of players in the NHL like to attack other players' injuries and all that good stuff. It does seem to be a factor and exploit it and such. But an apparent concussion, according to most people, I got to think, because it rammed into Ryan Suter. Suter literally went over to Kemper and then to the Wild trainer saying, "Get him out of there. Get him out of there. We're going to lose this game, basically, and he's injured. Get him out of there." And with the Wild trailing 4-3 with, what was it, 8 minutes left, it's like, we lost. I mean, we lost. The Avalanche have, every single time the Wild score, the Wild tie it up, the Avalanche managed to get another softie in, and it's all she wrote. The Wild, throughout this series, in game, other than Game 2, which was a really nasty game for the Wild. The Wild didn't even look good in that one at all. But in Games 1 and 5, the Wild at least led down the stretch. It was all just a matter of hanging on to it. Maybe this time if the Wild could take the lead. But with the Wild trailing by a goal, Did any of you really think the Wild were going to tie this one up? Did you? Did anybody really get that vibe? Because I sure didn't. I sure didn't. And a guy that a lot of people were criticizing, including very much myself, Jared Spurgeon. But he does have a tendency to be clutch or quirky here and there at times. But to see him tie the game up with a mere 2.5 minutes left, this was the only point in the entire game that I got the feeling that the Wild could actually win this thing. Because what happened every single time in this series, at least in Colorado, when the score was tied with with a minute left, 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left in the game, and only to force overtime. And of course, this was Niederreiter and Brodziak again, the third line again, joining together with Spurgeon on his slap shot, or wrister, or whatever you want to call it. But it wasn't really superly close range. It was just well placed. And that's what matters most, a beauty. And what is the most important part about every single one of these goals, by the way, that the Minnesota Wild scored in this game? Particularly Niederreiter's both goals, Spurgeon's goal. What was very similar about all of them? They rose the puck. They shot it high. Oh, that's right. They shot it high. Yeah, they shot it high because, well, that's a higher percentage shot. It just is. And it's very apparent that it's a high percentage shot against Varlamov, the best goalie ever, according to everybody. Okay, not everybody, but according to probably people in Colorado and some people in the NHL world, bloggers, podcasters, radio hosts, all that good stuff. But Jared Spurgeon rose that puck, and he perfectly placed it. And you have a tied game. The Wild tied up for the fourth time. They trailed for the fourth time after Eric frickin' Johnson's goal, which pissed me off, being what he was with the Gophers. He just took off. He was another one and done, an infamous one and done that was out of here right away after one meh season with the Gophers. Lottie freaking duh. Certainly not worthy of the number 1 overall pick, in my humble opinion. But that's just me, because that's just how I feel, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. But at the same time, throughout the overtime, yeah, the Wild showing a lot of grit, a lot of energy. But I was like, oh boy, watch what's going to happen. The Wild were going to get all these scoring chances that we're not getting past Varlamov. They just weren't going past him. Zach Parise with looked like he was going to finish it. Pominville, he was going to finish it. Molson had some close range chances, which that's all Molson is, as far as I'm concerned. That's what the vibe I'm getting, and I'm going to get to that later on here. But and of course, this game is the feature presentation in a lot of ways. But it's like you just got the vibe. What's going to happen here? The Wild are going to have all these chances, and all of a sudden there's going to be some type of breakdown. You're going to get a 2-on-1 with Colorado, and the Avalanche will be playing Chicago next week. Oh, goody. And we'll be talking about how we need defensemen and need goalies. And I do think we're going to be talking about that regardless of how far the Wild get this year. Mm-hmm. Regardless, but I do think we're going to be talking about it. But the tenacity never went away. Never. Even though Colorado had some chances. Well, actually, they only had one chance because Brodziak only faced one. What am I talking about, Brodziak? Brizgalov only faced one shot on goal. And trust me, I was scared to death to see Brizgalov in there with how poorly he played in Game 2. I mean, Game 2, I thought he was terrible, honest to God. But Brizgalov has been okay since he's returned to the net. Kemper has not returned, obviously. But then all of a sudden you had a 2-on-1. Are you kidding me? Brodziak, Heatley, and Niederreiter? Heatley fed it up to Brodziak. Pass it over to Niederreiter. Puts the puck on net. It just hit the post. It bounced up. No, it went in. Oh my God, it went in. Well, they'll probably, they're going to review it. It probably didn't go in. No, it went in. The Wild advance. Andrew Burnett all over again. Not the same type of shot, but it's Andrew Burnett all over again. Deja Vu number 1 right here. Minnesota Wild complete they come back from down 1 4 times in the same game. And the only time the Minnesota Wild led in this game was the final score and the final play of the game. A game of the ages. One for the ages for all of us out there that love this game very much. One for the ages. Absolutely fantastic. The Minnesota Wild survive, defeat the Colorado Avalanche in Game 7 in overtime again. 11 years later, Patrick Waugh, in stunned silence, again. Can you believe it? I certainly was shocked, yet at the same time, it's like I guess there's just something we have with the Avalanche when Patrick Waugh's around, I suppose, or at least in Game 7s. But a stat that will amaze you. With a franchise that hasn't really done all that much, other than that wonderful little 2003 playoff run, a franchise that its playoff history is quite thin. But here's a stat that really stands out in a lot of ways. The Minnesota Wild are 3-0 in Game 7s. How amazing is that? Does that not just amaze you? Oh, and by the way, every single one of those Game 7s was on the road. On the road. Game 7s can be won at times. They can be won on the road at times. But to think that the Wild have done it 3 times, that's pretty crazy. The Wild have been to the postseason. This is only their 4th postseason appearance ever. So that's kind of crazy when you think about it. 03 was their first. It was the 06 season. 06, 07, 07, 08 were the 2 before. This is actually their 5th appearance already. Wow. Yeah, this is their 5th. Last year was their 4th. Pardon me, but 5th. But 3-0 in Game 7. So if we can at least get to Game 7, don't lose at home in 6 games or whatever, or lose on the road to the Colorado Avalanche in the 6th game. I still remember that. The Wild were the 3 seed. The Avalanche were the 6th. The Wild did not survive that series. That sucked. Still remember that. Anaheim was a 5-game whopper. With a guy by the name of Ilya Bryzgalov on the other net. Ended up helping them win a Stanley Cup championship that year. A very stacked Anaheim team, physically and skill-wise, and experience, and youth, and everything. They just kicked everyone's ass. So Bryzgalov, regardless if he's a great goalie or an average goalie, it didn't really matter as long as he was okay and didn't get them killed. And now the hope is that Bryzgalov can do the same for the Wild against the Colorado Avalanche because, as Mike Yeo said after the press conference today, he's the guy. So, with all this said, I'm going to have 2 Mike Modano Award winners, okay? Just to split stuff up to be fair, because there's a player that deserves it against Colorado, against Colorado, who will not get it against Chicago, who has definitely stood out against Chicago so far. So, without a doubt, it could have easily been Zach Parise because of his performance in Game 6, but no, Nino Niederreiter for showing up the way he did in Game 7. How unbelievable he was in that game. Nino Niederreiter is your Mike Modano Award winner, without a doubt. Without a doubt. We will save the James Shepard Award for later. He'll be the overall guy for these 4 games. Let's just say he's doing his disappearing act again. Yet again. Same old story for this veteran player who is quite important to the Minnesota Wild. And you could probably guess who it is, and we'll get to it shortly. These 2 games will probably not be too long, the 2-game reviews with the Chicago Blackhawks, because it's just meh. Friday, May 2nd, Minnesota heads into Chicago. Obviously, the final score is not nearly as pretty, not nearly as close as the games were. Because for the longest time, the Wild actually had the game tied up. Chicago taking an early 2-0 lead in this one. Well, a goal late in the first period. I mean, it's always like that for the Wild when it's like there's no score for the longest time. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like those are the kind of games they don't win, except for game 3 last series, and thank God they won that. But Bickle, yikes. Brian Bickle, just a Wild killer. He scores in every single game the Wild play against them. Every single game the Wild play against him in the playoffs. It's ridiculous. Brian Bickle and Marian Hossa putting the Blackhawks up 2-0. The Wild don't even score until early in the second period. That's kind of a scramble in front of the net. It looked like Jason Pominville was going to get it, but ultimately the goal goes to Clayton Stoner. It was reviewed, but ultimately allowed, much to the chagrin of the Colorado Avalanche fan base. It went off a Colorado Avalanche skate. Don't remember, or I just called him the Avalanche. Chicago Blackhawks skate. Don't remember who. Doesn't really matter at this point. The goal credited to Stoner. Pominville, he's getting his 5th assist. Still needs his 2nd goal. He did score a goal in Game 6, so I'll give him some credit. There's Zach Parise with his 8th assist. And ladies and gentlemen, after this Game 1, Zach Parise is actually the leading scorer in the entire postseason, if you can believe that. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, because you don't really see it that way, do you? But Eric Holla all over the place, all over the ice, ultimately feeding Kyle Brodziak in this one to tie it up. And I was just like, oh my God, an unbelievable pass by Eric Holla to Kyle Brodziak, who simply needed to bury it. Just a spectacular pass. Kind of diagonal towards the net. It was literally like a layup. In basketball terms, it was just like a perfect pass for an easy layup for Kyle Brodziak. And yes, Brodziak had to get to the right spot and finish without getting twisted up, without getting his stick raised or anything like that by a Chicago defender. Yes, Kyle Brodziak did a good job getting where he needed to be, but Eric Holla's pass made that play, and it was unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And it's like, oh my God, here we go again. The comeback kids. The Wild comeback kids are back at it. Tie game with the 13 minutes left to go. Wow, it's anybody's game. And just like clockwork, Patrick Kane literally gave me the impression that the Chicago Blackhawks are toying with the Minnesota Wild. Because it was just like clockwork. Patrick Kane was basically like, give me the puck. Okay, here I come. Up, bye. Yeah, great. You guys thought you were going to win? No. Nah. It's easy. Just took it right to the net, backhanded it right past Brizgalov, just like that. And I'm not nearly as mad at Brizgalov as I am of the Wild's defensemen. And the Wild's forwards as well. Every skater on the ice for the Minnesota Wild basically got schooled by Patrick Kane for his 4th goal of the postseason. It was disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. I mean, it was only like a minute and 20 seconds later. Patrick Kane just went right by everybody. 3-2 Chicago. And it's just, I just got the vibe right then and there. Like, see, they're toying with us. They absolutely are. 8 minutes later, Patrick Kane scores again, and it's like that's all she wrote. And then Brian Bickle buries the empty netter. Whatever. Brian Bickle with 2 goals in this game. Great. Just wonderful. Who's getting sick? Can I ask you out there, raise your hand. Who's getting sick and tired of hearing the name Brian Bickle? Yeah, my hand's raised. I'm honestly getting sick and tired of hearing about Patrick Kane, but nothing we can do about that right now, is there? It was just like... Oh, it was so frustrating. It was just like, it was like a PlayStation or Super Nintendo, what do they call it, NHL 94. Somebody mentioned that on Twitter. I was thinking the exact same thing, right as I saw it. Right before I even saw that, I was like, oh, like NHL 94, like a little right past everybody. That's exactly what it was. Patrick Kane just schooled the Wild. Oh, it pissed me off. Just disgusting. Couldn't take it anymore. But there it is, 1-0 Chicago, and yeah, again, just the thought that we are getting toyed with does not give me a good vibe going into this series. I didn't feel so good even coming into this one, but I was hoping Wild would come out with some more energy and get it done. They came out with energy a little bit today, Sunday, May the 4th, but they didn't score. They just didn't score. The scorers didn't finish time in and time again. Is it puck placement? Is it just puck luck? Is it this? Is it that? Well, the Chicago Blackhawks must have a hell of a lot of puck luck then. And the Montreal Canadiens must have a lot of puck luck. And the Boston Bruins must have a hell of a lot of puck luck out there. No, you just need to finish. Enough of the puck luck, finished. God damn it, just finish. And this whole game, that's the vibe I got. This team lacks finishers, without a doubt. And it lacks discipline. Yeah, it lacks a lot of discipline because, the first goal of the game scored by Jonathan Taves. Lucky for the Wild, the power play had been over for a few minutes already. But, geez, what a lack of discipline. Brandon Saad. I'm going to say his name right finally. Saad. I was calling him Sad. I was calling him Sade. No, it's Brandon Saad. Mr. Smirk. And trust me, I was talking about him about halfway through the season as well. This guy is going to be a household name for Minnesota Wild fans as one of the Todd Bertuzzi, Matt Cook types. You know, when Matt Cook was a Vancouver Canuck, Todd Bertuzzi was a a Vancouver Canuck as well. Yeah, Matt Carbertuzzi. I can't even remember who was on Colorado. They used to get on our nerves. Well, Forsberg was pretty cheap with his flopping. Steve Ott with the Dallas Stars, and now finally back in our conference/division again with St. Louis. I like that. I'm glad that Steve Ott is over here because he's always mixing it up. It just makes for fun. It just makes for some fun hockey. And it's good to have somebody you love to hate, but Brandon Saad is going to be that guy when it comes to the Blackhawks. We have that guy. We have that Chicago Blackhawk that we hate. It's that guy. Oh my God, what a smirk on his face. That son of a bitch. He was getting to Prosser's skin earlier in the year. Prosser was getting pissed off at him. He just stood there and smirked as Prosser kept trying to shove and punch him and start something. I think Prosser got called for a penalty earlier in the year in a similar situation. And of course, Prosser and Saad mixing it up again in this game. And he was kind of having a little words. Saad was having a little words with him and then started talking to Stoner. So what does Stoner do right in front of the refs? Comes over and cross-checks Brandon Saad. Saad literally bursting out in laughter as he's kind of leaning down after as he's kind of tumbling over a bit from from the cross-check, a apparent cross-check by Clayton Stoner, and off to the penalty box we go. The Wild get away with a potential tripping call against a triple. It would have been on Koivu to Brandon Saad. He was tripping Brandon Saad. The Wild got away with that. So what do? Instead of thank God that we didn't get a penalty there, we just give the Blackhawks a penalty anyway, like we owed them. Good job. Thank you, Clayton Stoner. Luckily, the Wild did not get a goal there. But grind it out all the way. Chicago pretty much the whole game controlled the puck. Okay, no, they didn't. The Wild played fairly well in this game. Fairly well, but couldn't finish. The Blackhawks have finishers. The Wild just, they don't really right now. Only 19 shots on goal by the Wild, though. It wasn't exactly any type of a pepper job against Corey Crawford. Not really much at all. There was still some hope when McCormick was able to score and a beautiful feed from Clayton Stoner. I can't believe I said that, but it was an incredible pass by Clayton Stoner. Crazy. Obviously, the quote-unquote hockey assist from Eric Holla to get it to Stoner first, but an unbelievable pass by Stoner to McCormick with a fairly easy, but still a nice goal by McCormick. I'm still getting to know that guy. When I see his face, I'm like, who's that? Cody McCormick. A nice player, though. I think the Wild should keep him. Nice fourth-line guy. Deserves to be on the roster. But a couple of unsung heroes there with Stoner's first assist, McCormick's first goal in this postseason. Nice play. But that was it. I mean, it was 2 minutes into the third, and everybody's like, hey, we're back in this. Everything's going to be okay. I didn't feel the same. And it's not because I'm Mr. Negative and because I think the Wild suck and all that. But I just didn't get the vibe they're going to finish this thing. I just didn't feel it. And that's not how things turned out. Brian Bickle. Oh, Brian Bickle. With about 2.5 minutes left with a dagger. Fed from Hossa. Great. And it's just, that's it. Brian Bickle again. And who do you think scored 2 goals in this game? Brandon Saad. He scored early in the second period and, of course, buried the empty netter. His first and second goals of this postseason. Without a doubt, in my mind, Brandon Saad's the player of this game, without a doubt. And it's not because I like Brandon Saad in any way. They gave the number 1 star to Brian Bickle with a goal and 2 assists. It's Saad. How is it not Saad? Think about it. I mean, he screwed up the Wild's discipline at times, and he did get 2 goals. Okay, empty netter and all that good stuff. And Brian Bickle's goal was a dagger and everything. But I think Saad should get the player of the game. I don't think there's any doubt. Blackhawks win 4-1. Saad controlled the Wild in this game. Just toyed with us. They didn't even need Patrick Kane. And yes, Jonathan Toews did score his 4th goal of the postseason midway through the first period. Good for him. But Brandon Saad just making a mockery of the Wild so far. Even though he's only like a second, third line type of guy at this point, but a damn good one. A damn good one. I would consider him like an elite third liner and a decent second liner. Oh, Brandon Saad. That guy is going to drive us nuts for many years unless he leaves via free agency. Because obviously this isn't 1979, so Players do tend to leave a little bit quicker than they used to back in the good old days. But, man, oh man. Not liking the way this series is headed. I wasn't liking the way the series was headed last time around. So this is the other Deja Vu. The Blackhawks lead 2-0, and it don't look good, folks. It doesn't. But the good news is the Wild are coming home. And I do think the Wild win Game 3 at home. That's my preview. I'll start with the previews here in a second. Got to award my other Mike Modano winner here. And that's going to go to Erik Haula. Erik Haula has been the best player for the Minnesota Wild against the Chicago Blackhawks, showing a lot of energy, a lot of quickness, getting the puck on net, setting up other players, and making really good defensive plays as well. He is everywhere. Erik Haula is going to be the number 2 center for this Wild long term, I think, post Mikko Koivu. He's the future second-line center, and right now he is an awesome third-line center. And remember when we thought, he's a great fourth-liner, then he's a great third-liner, and then he's going to be a great second. I mean, I think Haula's going to be something special, and and I remember he filled in for Granlund when Granlund had his concussion issues. Erik Haula looked awfully damn good in that time. So Erik Haula, well deserving of the Mike Modano Award for the Chicago Blackhawks part of this show. Colorado Avalanche part, without a doubt, Niederreiter. So to the James Shepard Memorial, that is going to go to Mikko Koivu, who was really terrible. He started okay against Colorado, looked kind of decent, but he's gone on his disappearing act again. And he's made horrible defensive plays. Oh, man. I mean, in this game, it was multiple times that Mikko Koivu was out of position. Out of position on the goals that were scored. Just ridiculous. Horrible. Just drove me nuts. Several feet away from the score. Brennan Saad, Jonathan Taves. Just terrible plays. Just absolutely not where he needed to be. In a lot of ways helped cost us the game, and of course offensively, just a non-factor. Hasn't helped Zach Parise when he's with him, and he certainly was a non-factor in this game on the offensive side of the puck as well, but defensively he was awful as well. Just out of position, and it drove me nuts, and it drove many other people out there nuts as well. Multiple times in this game, Mikko Koivu badly out of position when he could have made a defensive play. And it cost the Wild big time. And there were other plays where it could have cost the Wild even more. Mikko Koivu. It wouldn't kill me to see him get traded at some point. Not sure that anybody's in a hurry to do that, but I mean, he should not be the captain of this team. I've been saying it for a long time, even though he's had some good moments this season. He was good at times against Colorado, but overall, I just am not feeling Mikko Koivu at all for a lot of reasons. So I will wrap up the, obviously, the preview part, plain and simple. Wild need to take care of business at home. I mean, is there any doubt about that? Is that not common sense for all of you out there listening? Well, you got game number 3 in Exhale Energy Center Tuesday, May the 6th. Game number 4, Friday, May the 9th. And I do think there will at least be a Game 5 in Chicago, Sunday, May 11th. Should I say it again? I'd like to say it again. I think the Wild come out of this week trailing 3-2. I said it again. I think the Wild are going to respond at home. They may win both. I hope so. They have to win both, though. That's the thing. They have to win both. If you go into Chicago, this isn't the Colorado Avalanche in 2003 or the Vancouver Canucks in 2003. This is the 2-time Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks. 2-time, obviously, 2010 and 2013. So twice in 3 years there. A 3-year span or 4-year span. Twice in a 4-year span for this club. And you got the Pittsburgh Penguins in the background here in my quote-unquote studio, we'll call it, quote-unquote. Against the Rangers. Yeah, I'll do an NHL playoff roundup, Stanley Cup playoff roundup after this. It'll be quite brief. But I do think the Wild return next week. The next episode, I think the Wild will still be alive, and it'll be a 3-2 series favoring the Blackhawks. And if that is the case, this will probably go to Game 7 again. Early prediction on that, if that's the case, the Blackhawks win Game 7, unfortunately. That's why I'm not happy about the loss today. I mean, if the Wild are going to win this series, they need to win the next 4 games, in my humble opinion. They're not going to beat Chicago in Game 7. That would be that would be the greatest feat in the history of this franchise. It would be better than the Vancouver win and the Colorado win in 2003, and definitely better than this year's win against Colorado as well. It'd be ridiculous. Just ridiculous if the Wild were to win Game 7 in Chicago. But it would also be ridiculous if the Wild were to win all 4 games. Game 6 would be Tuesday, May 13th, and Game 7 would be Thursday, May 15th. Will those games come to fruition? We shall see. You would hope Game 6 will come to fruition, because if it doesn't, that means the Wild will have already lost. Obviously, with the Blackhawks having won 2 games already. So I do think the Wild survived this week. I'm going to say that, even though a big part of me thinks the Wild just as easily could lose this thing. The series could be wrapped up Sunday, May 11th. I could be doing a wrap-up of the postseason for the Minnesota Wild type of show. The season wrap-up won't be until after the Stanley Cup Finals, where we have our MVP biggest surprise, biggest disappointment, and I'll post a thread on the Facebook page at the time to talk about that. But, but I would just kind of do a brief wrap-up of this series if that were to take place. But I do think that will not be necessary. And I hope not. We shall see. We shall see. It would be amazing if the Wild were to win both games at home and then somehow win in Chicago in Game 5. Oh my God, because then I think the Wild win in 6. But the odds of that happening, very slim in my humble opinion. Keep the faith, guys. Keep the faith. That's all we can do at this point. So with that, we will wrap up the review preview segment, and we will do a brief Stanley Cup playoff roundup right after this. I want to mention to you out there that Brave the Wild is now sponsored by Tallgrass Brewing. I deeply want to thank Tim and Barb for making this possible over at Tallgrass. Really appreciate you guys. I mean, 8-Bit Pale Ale. It is a can that is unmistakable. If you see Pac-Man licking his chops, you have found 8-Bit Pale Ale, and it is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's the reason why I pursued Tallgrass to be a sponsor on this show and on my other shows, Purple Mafia, Timberwolves Explosion, Showtime, and T-Wolves. It is a fantastic beer, but also they have an IPA called Ethos, ETHOS. You will find that in the same stores as well. Liquor stores around here. I mean, very easy to find Tallgrass Brewing around this area, mostly in the central time zone except for Louisiana. So really, really, really recommend Tallgrass Brewing. Do check it out. There's Buffalo Sweat if you like stouts. And in the wintertime, I think there's still a couple stores that still have it, the Vanilla Bean Buffalo Sweat. So basically it's Buffalo Sweat with a vanilla flavor in it. Now they're bringing out their new summer brews as well, but there's also a lot of permanent ones, and highly recommend, again, 8-Bit Pale Ale and Ethos. Really, those are my 2 personal favorites from the company, but there's so many to try. Oasis as well. Gotta love that as well. Another IPA that they have brought out a couple of years ago. Do recommend it. Do check it out, and do enjoy.
Do you shop on Amazon? Did you know that you can support this podcast just by doing your normal shopping on Amazon? It's really easy to do. Just go to thesportstuff.com and click on one of the many Amazon pictures. Do your normal shopping, and Amazon sees that we referred you, and they give us a percentage. We'd like to thank you in advance for supporting thesportstuff.com, and please use our Amazon link. Now enjoy the rest of the show.
We are going round like Saturn III.
Too busy to sit in front of a computer? Simply download Brave the Wild on iTunes for Apple devices. For Android, download the Double Twist app. And for Windows and BlackBerry phones, simply find us in the store. And now, back to Palladino Joey. Contact us and support Brave the Wild by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter. Don't forget to call into our phone lines at 209-736-7877. That's 209-736-7877. And we are back here on brave the Wild, and it is time for the Stanley Cup playoff roundup, at least up until this date, per se. So first and foremost, the Chicago Blackhawks, of course, defeat the St. Louis Blues 4-2. 4-2, ultimately, since the last show. They were able to complete a 4-game sweep of the St. Louis Blues after losing 2 heartbreakers. Sons of guns. Yep, they lost 2 heartbreakers in the first 2 games in overtime. Still remember them hanging their heads thinking, well, maybe the Blackhawks are going to be done here. They're out of it. Well, they've won 6 in a row since then. Oh, end of story there. We'll continue. Anaheim Ducks took an early lead against the series with Dallas. Dallas tied it up. Dallas was able to tie it up, showing some energy there. But then Anaheim finishing things along the way. And now the LA Kings. Talk about a hot team. They've now won 5 games in a row since trailing the San Jose Sharks 3-0. The San Jose Sharks. Remember last series when the Sharks... I remember last episode when I was talking about the Sharks are just walloping the Kings right now? It was like a 2... Well, and then like there was 7-3 games, 7-2, all that crap. And I remember like the last show I was talking about, the Kings and the Sharks are playing to a 2-2 tie, and that ended up being a 7-2 walloping at the hands of the Sharks. It's like, yeah, that series is over. Jonathan Quick sucks. The next thing you know, or not sucks, but is sucking in this series. But then all of a sudden, game 4, 3-0 shutout by the Kings. Jonathan Quick finally got things together. That's interesting. I wonder if anything will happen. Maybe they'll make that series interesting. Well, they've won every game after that. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely freaking nuts, actually. So, definite hardcore congratulations to the LA Kings, and watch out, the LA Kings might be in the Western Conference Finals to play against the Wild, hopefully, or the Chicago Blackhawks. Unfortunately, there. I already talked about the Detroit Red Wings getting finished off by the Boston Bruins. The Bruins ultimately won that series 4-1. Montreal and Boston could be the prime series in that Eastern Conference. In fact, I think it is. I think the winner of that series goes to the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm not too impressed with New York or Pittsburgh thus far. The Rangers finishing off the Philadelphia Flyers in their series in 7. Nice little win, a 2-1 victory. Nothing all that spectacular in that one. And Columbus just couldn't get it done against the Pittsburgh Penguins, who walloped them in Game 6 after a very close series the whole way. Game 6 not friendly to the Columbus Blue Jackets in only their second postseason appearance ever. But at least they got 2 wins out of it, and they made that series quite interesting for a while. Pittsburgh losing Game 1 to the New York Rangers so far in this series. Good for them, right? Right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins lead 1-0. This will be the weekend wrap-up, per se, in this series. The Rangers won the first game, obviously, in Pittsburgh, so that doesn't look good for the Penguins. A 3-2 game, though, had to go to overtime. But who finished it off? That's the crazy part. Just who do you think got the game-winning goal? Yeah, Benoit Pouliot. You're like, what? Benoit Pouliot? Yeah, Benoit Pouliot. Do you guys remember that name? Yeah, 2004, 4th overall pick by the Minnesota Wild. It wasn't 2004, pardon me, 2006. I'm screwed up. 2005. Post, 2005. The lockout finally ended because the whole year-long lockout. The Minnesota Wild ended up getting the 4th pick in that little lottery, whatever it was, back then after the draft. And it's like, oh, we got ourselves a skilled scorer. This guy could be a star in this league someday. He's got a ton of skill. He just needs to kind of hone his skills up a bit, kind of needs to get things together a little bit, get his crap straight, all that good stuff. Never did anything with the Wild whatsoever. Was out of here, off to the Boston Bruins for a little while. Was okay, all that good stuff. And he's kind of an okay player with the New York Rangers, but that's the game winner for them against the Penguins. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the hero again tonight. Pittsburgh still only up 1-0 with about 11 minutes left in the third period. We'll see what happens here. Penguins on the power play as I speak. Yes. But it's just crazy. Crazy to see Benoit Pouliot be a hero. And, of course, the North Star memory. Actually, it's the Wild memory in this case. We all know what it was and is, and I mentioned it already, but ultimately it was the legendary goal by Andrew Brunette and the way the Wild survived despite the Avalanche looking like they were going to win that game the entire night back in 03. Very incredibly similar to what took place this season. It looked like the Avalanche were going to win that game the entire time until Spurgeon's game tire. Clutch, perfectly placed tying goal with about 2.5 minutes left in this one. I thought the Wild had that game lost. I thought they were not going to win the game. I just had no faith. It's not like I had no faith, but I just didn't feel it. Temper was not good. Didn't really trust Bryzgalov too much. But Bryzgalov didn't have to face all that much, and the Wild got it done. Back in the day, I remember Dwayne Rollison had to face a peppering at the hands of that Colorado Avalanche offense. Ridiculously talented team. Veteran and talented. And the Wild just got a simple little breakaway and ended up being a game-winning play. In this case, the Wild were peppering the Avalanche. And then still got a breakaway play and that was all she wrote again. So there it is, Deja Vu. That's your Minnesota Wild memory. Andrew Burnett's legendary goal, circa 2003. Deja Vu, Deja Vu, Deja Vu, Deja Vu. Hopefully the Wild have a Deja Vu again, where the 2-0 deficit does not mean a loss in the series. It just means a little bump in the road, and the Wild figure things out, and they actually get it done. Wouldn't that be amazing? If they win both games at home, we got ourselves a little something going on. We got ourselves a little 3-game series, but unfortunately Chicago, I'm never going to get it right. Chicago will have home ice advantage throughout the way in this series now. The home ice advantage is gone unless the Minnesota Wild win 3 consecutive games. That's the only way the Wild can gain any type of home ice advantage, and it would be for only one single game, but one would be enough, in my humble opinion. If the Wild were able to go on some 3-0 streak against the Blackhawks, I think they win the series in 6. Is that going to happen? I don't want to say no, but probably not. All right, but everybody, again, like I said, here's a little good luck charm for all of you. Keep the faith. Go Wild.